Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritual Boujee Astrology, and we are going to take a look at the major astrological transits for the month of April. First and foremost, I owe everybody an apology. You guys know I like to usually be like right on top of this stuff, but coming back from this event that was just in Arkansas, I have not stopped moving and I'm not going to stop moving around probably until the end of this week. So I am recording this on the evening time of April 1st. So for some people, you're actually going to see this on April 1st. Most of you, you're going to wake up on April 2nd going, oh, look, there's an episode. Look at that. Huh. I apologize. It has been busy, busy, busy. But I'm sure a lot of you, that's not going to surprise you, especially if you really, really know me. So it is what it is. Now, I want to put a lot of focus up front on how heavy some of the transits are going to be this month. Because there are a handful of transits that are not going to just be felt over the course of 1 to 2 days. They are going to be felt for the entire month, some for half the month, so weeks on others. And this month is where we start to transition into what our new normal is going to be. It is the transition. The entire month is a transition. I've said this for a while. Now, the first part of the month, we still got 2 planets retrograde. Mercury's still spinning, making a mess of all the communication, distracting us, blah, blah, blah. Mercury retrograde. And Venus is still retrograde. And for the first half of the month, she will remain that way. Beyond those retrogrades, because obviously those are going to encapsulate a lot of weeks, there's other major transits going on. And a lot of them center in some way to Saturn. Good old daddy Saturn. Rules, law, government, karma, elders, responsibility, bosses, CEOs. There's a lot of the vibration that is going to be very, very focused in one area. And there's a multitude of ways that I can see that this is going to manifest in people's lives. And I've got a list. You know me, I'm old school still. I got stuff. It's written out. And I'm going to have a lot of conversations around Saturn before we actually get into the dates. And you know how I'll do this. Some of you are listening for the first time. But if you've listened for a while, a lot of you are very comfortable and confident of how I do things. I will put a lot of energy up front in some of the bigger topics. But then at the second half of this, I will go through the actual transits, show you the dates, show you the times, give you an idea of like where this stuff is going to manifest. But I do feel like this is the bigger vibration month of getting 1 or 2 old ideas, old concepts, old fears situated out. So a new role, new responsibility, new power, new dynamic can fully start to take shape. And that's that Saturnian vibration. And for some people, it's going to go well. For other people, it's going to be a very heavy weighted, consuming, all consuming type of vibration. And I want people to be aware that if you're feeling pulled, tugged into one mind frame that we can't let go of, and our mind becomes very, very heavy and very, very stringent and very, very raw, I do not see. That is the energy because of one of the major transits that is literally encapsulating the majority of the month. It's not going to go exact until closer to the end of the month, but we're building up to it all month. And a lot of it, again, is going to have to do with Saturn. So I want to talk about first the four major transits that I feel like is encapsulating the month beyond the retrogrades. We already know the planets have been retrograde for a while. If you've listened to me for a while, I have talked about it relentlessly. We're not done with them. We will still talk about some of the stuff, especially whenever it's tied to Venus vibration. But that's a part of that closeout vibration. That's a part of the old stuff and letting go of the past and moving away from things. That's like the final rounds of tests and energy. The second half of the month, especially after April 13th, every single day is becoming accustomed to a new normal, a new vibration, a new way of doing things. In a lot of ways, it's very fated and timely because of one of these four transits that I want to talk about from the beginning. So take retrogrades off the table. We're going to talk about these four. First things first, I've already talked about in some of the weekly episodes, and that is the first Saturn-Uranus sextile. Now, sextiles are not normally a heavy energy, but given everything else we've had going on lately, there's been some weight, there's been some pressure, there's been some shit, and things that have been going well for a long time, that have been comfortable for a long time, they're feeling that final wave of Uranus right now of like, oh, you like this? Psh, nice try. Let's break it. Let's shake this up. Let's throw it in the air. Let's see how far it'll bounce. Very Uranian vibration. Saturn is giving direction. Saturn, again, being laws, rules, government, responsibility, things along these lines. It's very giving a change of direction that is doing long-term shakeups to things that have been very, very fixed in our lives. The thing about the sextiles between Saturn and Uranus is they're starting in one set of signs. They're going to lead to other sets of signs. And again, it's happening over the course of an entire year. It starts this April of 2025. We're going to be feeling it all the way until the spring of 2026, because that's when the final one's going to happen. So there's a lot to it. And the first one that we're going to have also includes final hits to Mars. And I talked about this on the weekly episode. Right as we were going through that exact first sextile between Saturn and Uranus, it too will also have aspects to Mars. Mars wrapping up, going through its post-shadow phase, closing out everything from the retrograde, about to take something into a new form of power and shape. And we will actually see parts of this new form of power by the end of the month. And I'll talk about it here in a minute. But as Saturn and Uranus are starting one thing, we are also closing out another because of Mars. Now, that is felt the most exact on April 4th. However, we've been building up to this energy since March 26th. That's why I was saying, like, we've already talked about this one just a little bit. We will continue to feel the sextile between Saturn and Uranus until April 14th. So that's a good period of time of unexpected shakeups, responsibility shifts, unexpected things being broken up, taken away, all sorts of vibration. And there's a reason I say taken away. It's not really the Uranus part, but I want to keep going because I want to also talk about the other things tied to Saturn. Oh, good old daddy Saturn. We're going to have some issues this month. Okay. Number 2, the next major transit. Now we can talk about Venus. Now, back in January, Venus made her first conjunction to Saturn. And I said this back then. It was January, so many notes, 18th. I thought it was 19th in my head. So January 18th, 19th. That was the first one. And I said it back then. These two are going to go into a conjunction, but Venus wasn't in shadow yet. So I said specifically, people are going to start to hear and connect to things around January 18th, 19th timeframe that are going to later impact the end of the Venus retrograde because of how Venus's retrograde will end. Now we're getting close to the ending. Now we'll have 2 more conjunctions between Venus and Saturn. The first one being Venus still retrograde, of course. The second one will be a direct hit. However, when she surpasses Saturn, she's not going to go very far. She will actually end her retrograde within 1 degree of Saturn. So, what that means is even though they're not directly on top of each other, hip to hip, they got a little bit of space, they're still in a conjunction. And they will remain that way for the majority of the month. So, the first exact hit for this month, which would be hit number 2, is going to be April 7th. The second hit for this month, direct conjunction, I shouldn't say hit anymore. Need to stop saying hit. The second conjunction of the month, but it's the third and final in their series of 3, is going to be April 24th. However, we will feel their vibration from roughly around April 4th all the way until the end of the month, April 24th. And that's whenever they're going to get past a degree of each other. They will literally be within a 1 degree conjunction the entire month. Retrograde and direct Venus. So something about the vibration around laws, rules, government, authority, elders, responsibility, bosses is going to push a change in the Venusian. Now, whenever it comes to the Venusian, Venus's energy is about bringing us pleasure. First and foremost, it's the goddess of love. We want love. Show me all the love. Sometimes it can be a little hedonistic because we like pleasure. Just feed me the grapes. Food. The ways that we take in pleasure. Poetry, music, food, goods, services. Now, in some ways, based off of what's going on in the government, I can't ignore it. I'm not going to try to harp on it too much. We already know one big goods and services change that's going to have an erratic behavior effect on everybody, and that is tariffs. We've already talked about tariffs too. We did a Meditative Rant video a few weeks ago that I talked about. That's a big thing that has happened in the past. And I'm not going to get stuck on that again. But we know one example that's already happening in the big picture sense. You will also have changes in the mundane individual sense. And I'll explain a little bit more of some of those changes as we continue. But I want to continue through this top 4 list that I'm focused on. All right. Number 3. This one's a doozy. Saturn's conjunction to the North Node. The North Node is the head of the dragon. Once upon a time, the dragon was all one size. And I always say, think of Thanos, especially if you see Marvel movies. Think of Thanos. That's what this dragon's like. And this is the dusty way of explaining it, not the official way. Dragon wants to be able to control everything in the universe. And he can't, because every time he goes to devour a world, the belly gets full. He didn't like it. So the dragon goes to a magi. I want to be able to eat everything in the room and never get fat. Don't we all? Hearing the plight of the dragon, the magi had to be smart. If I tell him no, he's going to eat me. But if I tell him yes, he has the ability to eat everything that has ever existed. And that's not going to work. So the Magi had to be smart. I can give you what you desire, but there will be a stipulation. Whatever it is, I agree. Never agree this way. We never do blind agreements. Always backfires. But that's what the dragon did. When the Magi separated the head of the dragon from the body, he anchored then the dragon to the moon. And one of the reasons the nodes run in reverse to the planets is to give the illusion to the dragon head that he's eating new planets. It is an illusion. The North Node is the head of the dragon. Consumed, mentally consumed. Our minds become consumed. I must devour. You can still eat stuff. And you got a stomach, but still got a mouth. I will have, I will consume, I will control, I desire. Gimme, gimme, gimme. I'm a greedy baby. Y'all hear me say that all the time. North node vibration. By the end of the month, the greedy baby vibration is going to be making a conjunction to the ruler of government and laws and rules and boundaries. Good old daddy Saturn. Most specifically, that conjunction is going to happen in a mutable sign, in a changeable sign. And that's what's going to make some things very, very interesting. Pisces has two rulers, a traditional ruler and a modern ruler. The traditional ruler is Jupiter, and Jupiter is also in a mutable sign. And for those that do not know what I mean by mutable signs are the signs that take us into transitional energy. They are the transitional signs. Fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, these are the consistent vibrations. Like this is all of spring, all of fall, all of summer, that kind of thing. Mutable signs transition us through the seasons. The end of Pisces season goes into Aries. Aries, the start of spring. And I'm going to use that part of the example. Whenever it comes to Jupiter, Jupiter is in a mutable sign. It is in a sign of bridge. Bridging over, changing things up, taking something to a new place, taking to a new level, new ideas going on. The masses are impacted because it's Jupiter, and Jupiter impacts the masses. But now, Neptune. Now, for the last 15 years, we have had Neptune in its own home sign. We've had Neptune in Pisces. But that changed at the beginning of the month. Right before April started, Neptune moved into Aries. The weekend right before the 1st, we had that last Aries eclipse on the 29th. And on the 30th, Neptune arrived. Neptune moved into Aries. Neptune is in Mars' sign, and it's at the start of something. Not as only is it a sign that instigates starts and new things, but it is also at the beginning degree, 0 degree vibration, new endeavors, new growth, new changes, new inflation, new stagflation, for those that remember the Meditative Rant stuff. New. But Neptune is also hosting Saturn's conjunction to the North Node. New authority, new government, new laws, new rules, new. Something coming into focus, something coming into place, something coming into service. Very big new in this energy. And it will be something that's very, very consuming. Because again, the North Node, the head of the dragon, greedy, greedy baby, and good old daddy Saturn. Now, this conjunction is the most exact on April 21st. We are building to it all month. We will still be feeling it when we go into May. That's going to be the 3 degree range that I'm focused on by saying that. But it goes exact this month. And it goes exact while Neptune is at that 0 degrees of Aries. And that's important because of Mars. And that takes me into the 4th transit, but it's a mix of transits that I want to talk about. At the end of the month, we're going to have what's called a T-square between the Sun, Pluto, and Mars. I'm going to show you this. It's going to literally look like this. You're going to have Pluto here, the Sun here, Mars here. Now, the thing about Mars and Pluto is the fact that this will not be the first time they've had an opposition. In fact, it will be the 3rd and final one. The first one happened back in November of last year, November 4th, right around Election Day. Just a quick little reminder for everybody. It happened at 29 degrees of Cancer and Capricorn. And I said it back then, I'm saying it again now. This vibration speaks to something has to end, and something new for the long term needs to go into place. But we would not understand the vibration around the long term until the final Mars-Pluto opposition. And that happens this month. More specifically, it happens at the end of the month. And I'm going to remind everybody what I have said for a very long time. As we go through April, the first half of the month, while we're still in the retrograde energy, we're going to have some old vibrations that still need to get worked through. But after April 13th, so after the Libra full moon, which is simultaneous to Venus retrograde ending, and whenever I show you the transits, that you'll see what I'm talking about there. After that date, which that happens on April 12th, and we wake up on the 13th, every day moving forward is us waking up and becoming accustomed to a new normal. Now, we have a few last things that are going to happen, and that's going to have to do with like planets wrapping up their post-shadow phase. And one of those planets is actually going to be Mars. And that goes back to this Mars-Pluto energy. There's things for many of us that are not going to solidify into the new normal, the new way of doing things, until this final Mars-Pluto opposition. Now, it is going to go exact on the 26th. Right before then, the sun is also going to go through a square from Pluto. It will also apply a square to Mars. And those are going to be felt. Pluto Sun square 423, Sun square Mars, not in order, obviously. It's going to be felt on the 20th, April 20th, 420. There you go. That entire week, though, as those planets are going exact, we will feel the intensity around them, and that is going to coincide with Saturn in the North Node. Now, the thing is, Saturn is not immediately playing a part in that part of the transit, the Sun, Mars, Pluto vibration. However, Saturn is hosting Pluto while Saturn is in that conjunction to the North Node. Pluto is in Aquarius. And Pluto's vibration here is hosted by two planets, Saturn and Uranus. We start the month in a Saturn-Uranus sextile. And some of the things that are going to hit waves at the beginning of the month will also play an impact of how things are going to go at the end of the month. Now, whenever it comes to the Mars-Pluto vibration, there can be a lot of power struggles. There can be new vibrations towards power, new vibrations towards responsibility, new beliefs in power. Now, the beliefs is very, very important because one thing has changed in the Mars-Pluto opposition since Mars turned direct. Mars is now hosting Neptune. Neptune is hosting Saturn. So it still comes back to that Saturnian vibration and what we're dealing with Saturn's conjunction to the North Node. Now, I've taken some time to meditate on this. I've got a few things written down. This is not an end-all, be-all. There's also going to be other ways this is going to come through based off of your individual charts. If you have placements in that final degrees of Pisces, most specifically around 25 degrees, you're going to feel it anywhere between 20 and 29 degrees of Pisces or Virgo, Sagittarius, or Gemini. Like if you have placements in there, you're going to feel it. I'm making you very, very aware of that. It's going to have an impact on you as a person. But whenever it comes to Saturn and North Node conjunction, I have a few things that kind of came down to me whenever it came to my meditation. So first things first, fated, acclamation, roles, responsibility, positions of authority, positions in power, people rising to power, like feeling like it's very much time for certain people to step into a certain role, step into a certain position. Some of us are going to see it in the sense of like seeing our kids rise to an occasion, seeing your niece or nephew get recognized for something fantastic, seeing your favorite coworker finally getting recognized and becoming like your boss, like very timely, like this is the right person at the right time who can take on a certain position of power. That can be a good thing and it can be a negative thing. It really comes down to personal impact and personal ego. But considering it is Saturn that rules, laws, government, all those things in that transitional energy, there's going to be certain transitions in regards to power and authority in the big picture sense as well as the mundane sense. And I want to stick to mundane for a little bit. 2, consumed by control, power, responsibilities. Consumed by, I'm the boss and you're going to listen to me. There's that ego thing. The thing about the North Node sometimes is there's a lot of impact towards the head, and it is our head that tends to get in our way. So ego, it can be a big factor. You have to listen to me. I'm in charge. You got to pay me my respect. You got to listen to everything I have to say. No, I don't. Then you're fired. Okay. People can become very consumed by power. And you can see that in certain people in the company. Now, consumed by the needs of elders. Now, that's a little bit different. And it's not quite as heavy. But one of the things that has been very dominant through all of the retrograde since the beginning of the year is the health impacts. And we've talked about this over and over again, all the different ways. And the thing is a lot of that has brought us into the effects of surgery, the effects of treatments, and having to focus on them. And that usually means then, if somebody's in a really bad position, that their responsibility around them needs to change. They don't get to cook their meals anymore. Somebody else has to cook all the meals. We got to make sure we're keeping everything low blood sugar. I use that on the weekly example. I'm using it again now. And considering so much of this month, while Saturn is in that conjunction in the North Node, is going to include Venus ending her retrograde and turning direct. Oh, yeah. There is going to be stuff tied to the food aspect in our daily lives. Caring for them, dressing them, anything around the actual elders and that level of responsibility, just like being consumed by, I got to take care of everything for grandpa. I got to take care of this for my mom. I got to do this stuff. I had like just feeling very consumed by the care. And whenever we become so consumed that we can't even snap out of it, that's what's going to be the vibration of like being grabbed by energy. And there will be parts of this month that we just feel very, very, again, consumed by things. Another consuming vibration, and this one I'm going to make it a little less heavy, but it's still going to have a heaviness to it. Consumed or heavily motivated to get all the shit done all the way around, every little thing that has not been cared for that we need to get finished up, wrapped up, handled, blah, 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 blah. I got to get this done. I got to get this ready. I got to get this going. I got to get this. I got to get this. I got to get this. Because again, Saturn has so much vibration towards, again, responsibility. But sometimes we're not taking care of grandma, pop, your mom, your dad, your family. Some of us is just you and the dogs. And if it's just that, you can be consumed by other things that you need to get done. all that level of responsibility that hasn't necessarily been focused on, feeling very much like it's time to get all the tasks done. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be heavy. That doesn't necessarily have to be negative, but we can become very consumed by that, heavily motivated just to get shit done. Other people are going to feel the shadow effect of Saturn. Now, whenever it comes to being overwhelmed by responsibility, there can also be things that trigger forms of like deep seated depression, melancholy, and frustration. Feeling consumed by the fact that I can't handle my responsibilities. I'm not doing the right things. And we start looking for ways to overcome that. The negative impact of that type of vibration is it's almost like heavy as the head that wears the crown. The weight of the world is on my shoulders. And I don't feel like I can talk to, work with, do anything with anyone else because I'm supposed to be the one taking care of it. This is my job. This is my responsibility. This is my business. This is my family. It's mine. Greedy, greedy baby. But the mentality of it's mine and I have to be the one to do it. I have to be the one to take care of it. That won't necessarily always be true, but that consuming vibration of I have to do the things, all the things this specific way, and there's no other way to do it. There will be parts of this month, especially as the month continues, of being very consumed by energy, consumed by things. In many ways, we'll still have fueled beliefs, but those fueled beliefs have led to parts of the consumed energy that we feel like it's time to take care of. It's time to be responsible for. It's time to be seen as. But others will actually feel the negative impact. And it will feel very, very heavy. And there will be, especially the masculine, yes, the feminine in there too, but of either not feeling capable of responsibility or that they're failing in responsibility and that the weight is too much. Now, the problem I see for a lot of people, whenever it comes to the elements towards the power struggles and the responsibility of so much of this month, is that some people will feel like they have failed. And I don't necessarily know that that's true. So much of the energy has spoke to, again, pushing towards new directions, new endeavors, new changes. But there's also a good pocket of people that have been resistant to change. And I know this because I've talked to you. You know, I've worked in the oil field for 30 years. Just here, Maria, just an example. I've worked in this company. I've worked in the oil field. I've worked for my dad. I've worked for this for so long. This is supposed to be what I'm doing, but it's not working. And instead of understanding that the energy is telling us to go in a different direction, people feel like failures. And I hope you save this video because whenever you have certain people in your life that's what they tell you this month, I feel like a failure. I want you to send this to them and be like, no, you're not. This is a grab from energy. And there's a struggle for a lot of people in that regard. There will be struggle. And there will also be a shift to, again, that responsibility and where certain things should go. And I do feel like every part of April is shifting our awareness, shifting our focus into, again, what will be the new normal. Many people, as they start to look for new jobs, break away from their families, go in their new directions, do these new things that they need to do, as they make these steps forward, they're going to feel very insecure in going into the unknown. And so many are going to have blind versions of belief because they're not used to this kind of vibration. We're going into something different. We're going into something new. We're moving toward a new normal. Every day this month, we're getting familiar with that. We're getting accustomed to that. We're learning that. We're not in it. It's not snap of a finger. We're not in it. We're learning it. Now, to be clear, it's more the second half of the month. And it will even continue into May and June. Like it's going to go on for a while. When I say a new normal, we are not going backwards. The old ways are done. Old ways of doing things are gone. Old power dynamics, old plans, old rules, a lot of it's gone. We're not getting it back. That means presenting our focus and shifting into something new. The transitional energy that we're going to be in really starts to fall into place this month, but it's going to stay consistent for about 2 years. 2 years of transitioning into a new normal. We're at a starting line, babes. But it's not an obstacle course. That's good. It's not a gauntlet race. That's good. But there is something towards a new dynamic. Now, Mars is wrapping up its point of shadow this month. And Mars is going to transition back into Leo. And that's going to happen again the second half of the month. And there will be things about Mars's vibration that is going to bring things to light and to power at a whole different level, at a whole different vibration than what it was like the first time Mars went back into Leo, went into Leo, back in November. I moved some words in my sentence right there. Because that was the last time Mars entered Leo. And he was only there from November until January. It was right during that time frame. One vibration set in. And if you've listened to me for a while, one of the things that I said is, hey, November, December, when Mars was in Leo, I pulled more charts for businesses than I did people. I've said it multiple times. There's a lot of industry business changes that we've had a rippled effect of one transition to another. And some people have completed their transitions, but some people will actually be completing them this month. And whenever we get into the Mars and Leo vibration, and whenever that starts, and it's going to last for 2 months, once that starts, I really want people to think back to what was going on in November and December, because we're going to be picking back up on it, but we're picking back up on a whole extra level. It's going to be a whole extra notch of speed. And now when Mars goes into Leo, it again is going to be hosting Neptune. And our beliefs are going to fuel a lot of our passions, Mars, desires, Mars, fights, Mars. He is the god of war. But our drive and our ambition, Mars, fueling it, empowering it in a whole different way. Ambitions, desire, and drive, just as much as fighting, are going to change. And those first bouts of change start at the end of the month. Before we can actually get there, we got to wrap up some retrogrades. Now, I haven't been too heavy on the retrogrades. I'll be honest, I still feel like that first week of April, whenever Mercury is still retrograde, can we have the normal confusion, rethink, revise, revamp, restructure, redo, recommunicate? Oh, I've rethought something. I've been thinking about this one person. I'm going to go back to him. I want to talk to him again. Absolutely. But I don't feel like Mercury's energy is heavy because at least Mercury's had mutual reception with Jupiter. So whatever we're rethinking and reshaping, there were other things that triggered it. Venus's energy is different. Now, Venus is still retrograde, but she's in higher exaltation now. So anything that we're changing feels very empowered. It feels very felt. And I meant this in like the intuitive sense. We feel like this is the right thing to do. We feel like this is the right direction. We feel like these are the right changes. We feel like it's the right thing to say to that person. And for some people, there will be closure in a lot of ways, especially karmic closure. Because again, Saturn rules karma. And the majority of this month, as Venus ends her retrograde and turns direct, she will be in a conjunction to Daddy Saturn. I think I should clarify something. Why do I call Saturn Daddy Saturn? I maintain Saturn. If I was to put him in like character form, he is like Red Foreman from that 70s show. He lets you do certain amounts on your own. But then when something messes up, he's the one that jerks you back in. He's the one that tells you it's time to fix it. He's the one that's calling you a dumbass. We don't do it this way. But it gives you that little bit of an inch so you can figure some things out. You have so much time. And then later on, my energy is going to tell you time is up because, again, Saturn rules time. And I always look at Saturn's energy, and whenever I think of him and I describe its vibration, I think of Red Foreman from that 70s show. So, Daddy Saturn. Just so people can understand why I say that. There's a change around the Saturnian. There's a change around time. There's a change around rules. There's a change around government. There's a change around the bosses. There's a change in so many ways. And I do feel like, given that the end of Venus's retrograde is simultaneous to the full moon in Libra, which will be the end of eclipse season. That is the end of eclipse season. Whatever lunation starts eclipse season, in my mind, is the one that ends it. We started with a lunar eclipse in Virgo. We are going to end it with a full moon, because a lunar eclipse is a full moon. We are going to end it with the full moon in Libra. For those that don't know, Saturn is exalted in Libra. Venus will be in a conjunction to Saturn when she ends her retrograde. Certain contracts comes to a close, certain agreements come to close, certain karmic relationships come to a close. And it will lead to timely turns. Some will be heartfelt because it's Venus. Others will have to do with pleasure, whether we are happy with something or not. And if we're not happy with something, that too can result in things coming to a close. I'm not happy anymore. I'm not okay with this anymore. I'm not willing to settle for this anymore. And if there's a change of heart for many, many people at the end of this Venus retrograde, that too can feed into that melancholy of what Saturn in the North Node throughout the rest of the month can encapsulate. Because if something's changing in such a big way that impacts our heart, our lives, in that sense, there will be a whole different weight of, I have failed. And again, I keep taking this energetically to the masculine. I feel like more of it's going to impact them. I'm not saying that women cannot have this moment of feeling like I failed, but I think it's going to be more on the masculine. And I again want people to then have this saved for whenever the right person needs to hear it, because I want you to send it to them. Just listen to the first part. You don't have to listen to all the charts. Just listen to what she says here. It'll make sense, I promise. So often you guys do that. You'll send this to somebody and I'll suddenly get calls or messages from people I've never talked to before going, so my friend sent me your stuff. Like, oh, okay, cool. That's usually how it goes. Okay. Okay. I think that was most of what I wanted to cover in the beginning. Some of that was intuition kind of taking over. And I'm sure you guys can start to figure that out the longer that you start to listen to me. I'm going to get into the transits. I wanted to go over specifically the major transits. This is not like the weekly stuff. I'm not going to do it by hour per se. Sometimes I might move some of it by hour just so we're closer. But I really want to just get focused on those major transits. Now, some of the transits, whenever it comes to those windows, for this part, I'm just going to show the days that they're exact. I told the windows from the beginning because so much of the vibration consumed, and I wanted to go ahead and cover that up front before I went into the actual exact major dates, just to be clear. Okay, so first things first, we're going to get into the month and we're going to get into the 4th, April 4th. So this is when we go through our exact first sextile again between Saturn and Uranus. Now, what's interesting again, Saturn, that is the traditional ruler of Aquarius. Uranus is the modern ruler. These two planets are hosting Pluto. And at the end of the month, we're going to have our Mars-Pluto opposition. The vibration of the things that start to go into effect at the beginning of the month are going to lead to a huge power struggle vibration at the end of the month. Mars is involved in that Saturn trine. It's the third and final one. Uranus is involved with a sextile to that Mars. And again, we're going to have a Mars-Pluto at the end of the month. So I really do feel like a lot of the vibration of whatever is getting set in motion that first full week of April, from April 1st, to the 7th, just kind of given that whole window. Really that March 26th to the 14th, it is playing a big encapsulation to what's going on. Now, the thing about Saturn and Uranus is, again, this is the first in the series of 3. And for those that like to go ahead and mark it in their calendars, this is also going to impact the second one, which is going to be August 12th later this year. That one will be in different signs. Saturn will actually be in Aries by then. Uranus is going to be in Gemini. That one will be different because Saturn will be retrograde. So there will be certain things that are being enacted right now that the government bosses, authority figures, things along those lines, they're going to be less likely to push forward anymore once we get in that latter half of summer. And there's a multitude of reasons why, but this is one of them. Now, the second date will be August 12th. The third and final sextile between Saturn and Uranus is exact on January 19th of 2026. So again, things about this week is a closeout of stuff from before, but it's also setting the stage for stuff that we'll be dealing with all the way into next year. And that third and final wave will be different because by then Saturn will be direct, but Uranus will be retrograde. So we'll have some things that are more likely to come to terms at that time based off of all the changes, of all the newness. So there's that. Okay. Now, the previous sextile between Mars and Uranus was January 25th of this year, October 24th of last year. And the previous one, trines between Mars and Saturn, September 30th of last year was the first one. February 9th of this year, so when Mars was retrograde, was the second one. So again, we have things that go to last fall that have impacted this spring in a multitude of ways, and we're closing out certain vibrations tied to those. certain actions that are being taken forward, that are being nurtured and cared for, that are being pushed into a certain direction, can still be bringing up a lot of emotional responses because Saturn is in Pisces and Mars is in Cancer. But it's like, this is how we feel things need to go moving forward. The other thing about the 4th is this is also whenever Mercury retrograde hits its conjunction to the North Node. So there can be certain ideas of change with Mercury being retrograde, that it feels time to make said changes or rethink certain things. Just to be clear. Okay. Next one. We're going to go to the 6th. Now, this one of these is not as heavy as the other. Say it that way. The sun is going to hit a sextile to Jupiter. And I kind of covered this on the weekly look ahead forecast. So here's the sun. It's just past the sextile, 17 degrees, 9 minutes. Here's Jupiter, 16 degrees, 53 minutes. The sun is empowered. It is in its exaltation. The sun does very, very well in Aries. There's a push in the vibration. Considering this is just following the Mars-Saturn trine, can be very timely pushes in the vibration. And some of these timely pushes can have to do with wealth, the doctor, the guru, the teacher. Jupiter can be those things. The masses, people learning about, the multitude of people learning about a lot of things. But what's interesting is the other thing that's going on, and that is Venus's second trine to Mars. We've had this once before. Now, last time we had it, Mars is retrograde. Now, these two have flipped. Venus is retrograde and Mars is direct. And some of the actions that are being taken forward, Mars direct, Venus is not believing, does not want to support, does not care about, not a part of. Venus retrograde moving in a different direction. So they're going in different directions. There can be part of the vibration around the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th that we're not supporting certain people. We're not believing them the same way. We're not about them the same way. We don't care the same way. And there can be a lot of weight and judgment tied to that because of how Venus is continuing. Now I'm going to take this to the 7th. On the 7th, this is when Venus is going to have her exact conjunction to Saturn. Now, again, this will be the second in the series of 3. It will be the retrograde one. We've been building to it for a couple of days now. But what's interesting also about the 7th is this is also whenever Mercury is turning direct. So Venus's conjunction to Mars of, I don't want to support that. I don't want to go in this direction. In that trine to Mars. So Venus is trine to Mars, but moving away from, I'm going away and going to an elder or an authority figure. And it's like going to talk to your dad of like, I'm leaving him. Well, you can stay here for a while. Now think of it this way. Venus and Saturn will be in a conjunction for the majority of the month. And some people will be in this moment of like, I'm not going this direction. I'm going to go over here. And we think we can like move back in with our parents for a minute. Some people can. Some people can coexist and live with their parents again after so much time based off of certain dynamic changes. But other people, sometimes when you move back in with your parents, in their mind, you're still 12. For this example, you're still 12. I'm leaving him. I have to go. It's just so bad. You have your old room and you take it. Venus conjunct Saturn. Good old daddy Saturn. Move back in with dad. When you move back in with dad, you start to remember dad's kind of an asshole. And for the entire month, when Venus is in this conjunction of being around the elder, the boss, the authority figure, we also start to rethink this too. And some people will do something like move back in with their parents and it not last more than a few weeks. Venus's conjunction to Saturn, because they don't want to be treated like they're 12. Now, some people, you have no choice but to move someplace temporarily. And that can also be kind of a thing. Like, oh, we had termites in our house, and the only way we can do it is if we get the big tent to fog it, and they need extra time. So we can't be there going in a different direction. So we're going to go stay at our parents' house or our in-laws or something like this. And very quickly we remember why we don't go over there all the time. That type of vibration. Something that triggers old wounds, old karma, old situations, and makes us rethink situations around the elder, around our bosses, around authority figures. Now, this first conjunction, this first meeting is like Venus going back to the elder. Little girl going back to dad. Even though she's a grown woman, hear me out on that. That's what part of this would feel like. It's the best example that I have. Some people are going to have certain people come back to you going, I need your advice. I need to talk to you. I need you to teach me something. And that will be a good way to look at Venus and Saturn. Other people will have people come back around because it's time to settle out something from the past. And then once Venus and Saturn are done, that vibration will be done. It's like that one little moment where your ex comes back around and you're like, maybe we can make it work. And then again, as soon as you're back in that energy, you're like, oh, yeah, no, we can't be together. This is a terrible idea. I had forgotten so many things. I had turned this mindset up here and romanticized all of these things about you. And now I remember, again, you're kind of an asshole. Think about Saturnian energy, kind of assholes. Speaking as one sometimes. Okay. Moving along. Keeping this going. Now, again, Venus and Saturn, we're in it all week or all month and week. But again, this is also when Mercury turns direct. Now, some people, when you go back to a certain person, it helps us clear our head. It helps us get a different perspective. It helps us put something correct. Mercury is direct, and that's helpful. That'll be helpful moving forward, finding new ways of doing things, solutions, new terms, and taking us into final solidification of things that's been changed and adapted since the beginning of March. In a multitude of ways, the beginning of March. Okay. Moving this along. Now, that Venus-Mars conjunction, it is still in that loosely in that trine to Mars. So again, for a lot of people, this kind of feels like I'm leaving him and I go back to dad, or I'm going back to someone else, or I'm going back to something else. I'm leaving this job and I'm going back to my old job. But then it's remembering, oh yeah, I hated this job too. In a lot of ways, we're going to have some kind of vibration of it, seeing like certain people try to come back around. And again, it's like timely closure, karmic closure, because again, Saturn rules karma. Now, on the 8th, Venus is going to go through a sextile to Uranus. And we're just past the exact right here. Now, she's still very much in the conjunction to Saturn. Saturn and Uranus are still very much in their sextile. It's not exact anymore. It's still 25 degrees, but it's not exact by minute. So they're still a part of this vibration. Venus is moving away from Uranus, but Uranus is in Venus's sign. So again, some of the unexpected changes could be like pushing Venus to move away, to go in a different direction. It's influencing her vibration. You can hear certain things unexpectedly that solidifies, oh yeah, I don't need to be with this person anymore. It's like as soon as you leave your ex, or as soon as you leave your husband, it's like finding out, oh, he hired a bunch of strippers. and brought him into the house. He had a big old orgy party as soon as me and the kids were out. Like, it's like the unexpected energy that pushes the implementation of, I'm not going back to that. I will not repeat that. I will not do that. I will not focus on that. I will not live with this. Even though Venus is retrograde and moving away from Uranus, Uranus is still in Venus's sign. So this feels like a feeding of energy. It's like hearing that something has impacted someone else and it's pushing somebody else away even more. Just solidifying, like, I made the right call. I don't need to be there anymore. I don't need to be with this person anymore. I don't need to be with this company anymore. Whatever it is, it's like it's solidifying the push away. Now, for some people, that can all happen at once. The 7th and 8th, it can be very correspondent to one another. And it's just like one layer after another. In a lot of ways, that's what it feels like. But that's a big part of like that lingering vibration between Saturn and Uranus anyways. So we're going to keep this going. All right. Next thing that's going to happen is the 10th. And this is going to be our next conjunction between Mercury and the North Node. This is the third and final one. We've had previous ones. Of course, we had one on April 4th. We also had one back on March the 1st. Remember I said certain changes that we felt was necessary since the beginning of March? Oh, hey, there's another tie-in. The North Node again is the head of the dragon. I will have, consume, desire, gimme, gimme, gimme. But Mercury rules our logical brain. Now, when I'm paying attention to this date, not only do we have our logical brain being emphasized, but whenever Mercury hits this conjunction to the North Node, there's also going to be a conjunction between the moon and the South Node, the body of the dragon, in Mercury's sign. For a lot of people, this is going to be very timely decisions or information to both move in one direction and leave something else behind. A lot of the first half of the month is like energy of like, not doing that anymore, going this way, not focus on this anymore. I have to go and deal with it this way. I have to think about it this way. I have to plan for it this way. I have to move towards it, travel towards it, things, logistics or something like that. In this direction, the old way is not going to continue. Now, some people might actually have certain things that impact their body around this day, and that would not surprise me. Some people are going to have major emphasis of downloads this day. Because again, the moon, the ruler of our empathic and intuitive side, is going to be in Mercury's sign, while Mercury is in that conjunction to the North Node. People will feel the energy on this day in so many different ways. Okay. I'm going to bump this 2 more days. We're going to get to the 12th. We got a couple things going on. First things first, in the morning time, we're going to have the exact conjunction between the sun and Chiron. So we're just past it at this 12:16 mark. You can see here's the sun hitting the conjunction to Chiron. Recognizing the wound. Chiron is the wounded healer. Facing a fear, facing a wound, facing the pain. Chiron. Facing the person that created the wound, that created the trauma, that created the pain. Chiron. Learning of the wound, learning of the pain, learning of what it takes to heal. Chiron. Anytime the sun comes into a conjunction with a planet, something comes to light. But we're not done when it comes to the 12th. And now I am going to shift some stuff by hour. We're going to get into the evening time. Now, the other thing that's going to be on the 12th is at 7:22 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I'm just bumping this to 7:16. We're going to have the full moon in Libra. So we're just before the exact right here. Here's the sun, 23 degrees, 19 minutes. Here's the moon, 23 degrees, 16 minutes. This is a full moon in Venus's sign. Okay. You see Venus right here? 24 degrees, 37 minutes, retrograde. But if I bump this to 8:30, so I'm just going to bump this like to 8:36. There you go. Venus turns direct. within an hour of each other. The full moon in Libra perfects. The full moon in Venus' sign comes to a completion, level up, ending vibration. Now, I am more likely to believe the ending this time than the level up because of the condition of Venus and that mix of Chiron with the sun. Venus turning direct in her exaltation, turning something around, is coming to like the best way to move forward, to go in another direction, to heal, to overcome, is to let something go. Now, the thing about Libra, regardless of your house number, Libra is about balance, laws, scale, partnerships, legal matters. That is a big reflection of what Libra represents. That full moon coincides with the ruler ending a retrograde. It is going to be the end of eclipse season, simultaneous to the end of a retrograde. There is going to be a lot of things coming to a very sharp completion in this full moon. Karmic healing, karmic closure, karmic release. Now, some people will have new wounds, understood, because the sun will be in a conjunction to Chiron. Others will have wounds that get opened in the morning that lead to a completion by the evening. Sometimes people will have something in their life that it's just like, once you do that thing, cross this boundary, say what you say, hit what you hit, do what you do, there ain't no turning back. Boom. That's what this full moon feels like for a lot of people. And the only way to heal is to cut certain ties. That's what this feels like. It's not an eclipse, but it's the intensity of Venus. The only way she can do something different is to make a timely change. Some people, it's going to be a protected change. If you are the person that has to move back in with your dad, just using that same example, it can be anybody. It can be your best friend. It could be your, your old boyfriend. It could be your cousin, your brother. It doesn't matter. But for this example, I'm just going to say, if you're the woman that just moved back in with your dad and your ex-husband tries, or your soon-to-be ex-husband tries to come up that driveway, I'm a country girl. It's better to have a double barrel than a single barrel. Let's be honest about that. You're going to hit a bigger target. Sometimes when somebody tries to cross certain boundaries and other people finally see it, and they have that ability to step in, to intersect, to protect, it allows for final motion of separation to happen. It's going to finally allow for certain things to go back into balance, to fall into place. And there's something about going through this full moon, ending that retrograde, that such heightened energy coming to a peak the way that it will, we will feel a very stark difference between the 10th, the 11th, and 12th, and the morning of the 13th and every day afterwards. It will be so starkly different. Now, some people have not committed to all the changes they need to commit to yet. You've had one or two things lingering, kind of keeping you held back. If you've let things linger and hold you back, you're going to really feel this vibration. And it's going to force some shifts. And I want people to be aware of it, because this one part of the dynamic And I didn't want to get too heavy on it in the intro because we had a lot of other heaviness to deal with. This feels like the cut and dry difference between that's your half of the month, this is my half of the month. You are in the past. That is in the past. I'm doing something different. And I feel like a lot of people are going to feel that, especially when you wake up the morning of the 13th. So we're going to keep this forward. Now, the thing about immediately after this full moon, there's no major transits going on. We've still got the buildup of everything in certain ways, but we do not have any major transits again until the 16th. So I'm going to bump this to the 16th. Now, first things first, Mercury is going to re-enter Aries. That happens in the overnight hours. Got this at 1:36 a.m. You can see Mercury goes into Aries. And as soon as Mercury goes into Aries, it is going to start its third and final conjunction to Neptune. Now, that's going to happen, of course, a little bit later. You can see still we have Mercury conjunct Neptune. I don't need to really bump that by hour. You can see it's going to happen. And again, because it's the third and final one, that means we have prior dates that feed into this one. So for those that track your calendars, March the 2nd was the first one. That was Mercury conjunct Neptune, direct, both planets direct in Pisces. The second one was March 29th. Mercury was retrograde. That happened simultaneous to the eclipse. And in a lot of ways, that Mercury-Neptune conjunction, these two changed signs. So it was like, in one way, we had a meeting of something coming together that we agreed to, or that we thought was going to work, that like one conversation slowly shifted us against each other. Going back to the energy that instigated around the 29th. Now, for some people, that didn't really take shape until we got into the actual week following the eclipse, because there was just so much volatility and so much wonkiness in that vibration that some of us couldn't even initially understand what we were kind of wanting to work against. But now we're going to get to this point and we're going to come back to a conjunction. And this time it's going to be in a new sign. Therefore, it's going to be like some of the things that needed to change before weren't quite getting changed, but now we're willing to start something, start a plan, start a process, start a progress, start a job, going off mercurial things, start travel, logistical things, based off of this 0-degree conjunction. Now, when it comes to conjunctions to Neptune, this will be the first planetary conjunction to Neptune. So some people won't even start to really understand what Neptune and Aries is doing for us until this conjunction. Because again, this is the starting vibration. And it's happening at 0 degrees of Aries, right before the ruler of Aries, Mars, changes signs. So let's keep this going. We're going to feed into that. We're going to feed into that. Here's that again, 0-degree conjunction, but Mars is at 29 degrees of Cancer. Something is starting. And it's like we have a few things to wrap up while this is starting. And that's what a lot of this vibration starts to feel like. Now, on the 17th, bumping this a day, that's when Mars is going to go into Leo. It's happening later, so I have to bump this by hour to get it exact. There you go. Come on. There we go. 11:36 at night. For some people, it's going to be the 18th. For a lot more people, it'll be the 17th. But here it is. Mars goes into Leo. As soon as Mars goes into Leo, it's in a trine to Neptune. It's in a trine to Mercury. It's not exact right at this moment, but some of what starts to come together, the 15th, the 16th, going into the human effect now, the 17th and the 18th, is the start of something, the start of certain things being communicated, a start of certain things being planned, a start of new actions, a start of new powers being seen, a start of new motivations being announced, new actions going forward. I'm going to keep this going because there's another thing that speaks to this, and this goes over to the 19th. So I'm going to bump this by 2 days. The sun is going to go into Taurus. This is going to happen in the latter half of the day. Now, the first day officially of Taurus season is usually the 20th, but whenever we have leap years, we tend to have things that kind of like throw that off a little bit. We had a leap year last year, and we're still kind of thrown off a little bit about how certain planet, or when the sun goes into a new sign, sometimes it might be quote the day before the actual season starts. So there will be some babies that are actually born on April 19th this year that their sun is going to be in Taurus, not Aries. And they're going to be the ones that are like, I'm a cusper. Fair. Now, Mars is at 0 degrees. The sun is at 0 degrees. Neptune is at 0 degrees. That's the start of a lot of new things. But 2 of those 3 planets are in fixed signs. The start of new long-term energy, long-term determination, long-term ambitions, long-term goals, long-term fights. It is still Mars. Neptune is in Mars's sign. So there can be some fights in there too. And if you're going through a divorce, there can be some fights. Going off of that continued example of somebody moving back home with their dad. There's the start of something that really shifts into place. The 15th, the 16th, the 17th, the 18th, the 19th, the 20th. You see this here. Something new starts to very much take shape through these days. And they have the ambition, the goal, the drive to be long-term changes, the influence to be long-term. What's interesting about this is the sun is hosting said Mars, but Mars is hosting that Neptune, and all 3 are at play. The other thing about this vibration is Venus. Whenever we go into Taurus season, that's Venus's energy. And Venus is newly direct and about to go back into her exact conjunction with Saturn. They're still in a conjunction. They're still right on top of each other. But some of the long-term effect can also have things tied to the rules, the boundaries, the responsibility, the elders that we talked about before. And some of us, as the Venusian person, can be the support to new people going into power, new people in positions of authority, new bosses. We can be the supportive vibration, and we are going to be falling into a certain role to help things kind of go into place. If your favorite coworker just got promoted to being a boss, they might also need an assistant. And in some ways, some people will be going into their new caring roles. I'm going to say it this way, because they're like the supportive vibration. And that speaks to Venus. Now, whenever it comes to Neptune and Mars, they have had multiple trines also. But their trines, before Neptune was, whenever Neptune was in Pisces. I'm messing up my words now. I'm so sorry. This will be the 3rd and final one in a new sign. And again, speaks even more to transitional things from before are now starting to set into something more long-term moving forward. Okay. Oh, on the 20th, this one day, Venus is going to go through her 3rd and final trine with Uranus. Again, the previous one was earlier in the month on the 8th. The one before that was January 26th. So we've got a couple parts of the vibration that speaks to things from that are months in the making in this final energy. Venus is in her exaltation. This part's not really, really heavy. That's a good thing. She's hosting that Uranus while aspecting Uranus. So it's like, if you're in that supportive role, like one person gets put into a new position of power and you're right behind him now. So it's like telling other people to be something unexpected or something that they're going to be excited for about your new role, about your decision, about your responsibility, about what you're dealing with, about what you're doing. It's Venus giving direction this time. Venus giving the news, Venus giving the idea of how things are going to move forward. Some people will find it as unexpected news. Others are just going to be excited about whatever's coming through. Doesn't have to be heavy, this particular part of it. And considering so much of these few days also speak to that new energy, again, I've got exciting news that we're moving. I got a new job, that this is going on, that this is going to go great, that this is happening. A lot of that here. And it's interesting is, of course, the 20th is going to be Easter. So some people are going to be telling their families about all the changes that they're about to start doing or have just started to do in that human effect. Okay. Now, another thing that's going to happen on the 20th is Mercury will also go through its final sextile from Pluto. The logistics, the plan, the process of what we're doing moving forward is helping us overcome a fear, frustration, a previous power struggle. It can be very dominant in the vibration. And this is also the day that the sun is going to go through its exact square with Mars. There can be tensions in some of this vibration. If your soon-to-be ex-husband, I'm going to go with this continue example. I am not picking on anybody. I'm not using anybody's information. Please, I just know I'm using a continuous example because somebody's going to be like, were you talking about me? No. When the sun hits that square to Mars, that's tension. That's a push. That's a long-term ambition. That's a long-term drive. That's a long-term thing setting in. We got a new part of that vibration based off of what just occurred before this one exact. We have long-term push, but we also have something being communicated between Pluto and Mercury about a power struggle and a power dynamic changing. If you go to your mom's house right after your wife has left you, using it from this example, and you show up by yourself going, where are my grandbabies? Oh, I got a story to tell you. We're getting divorced. Blah, blah, blah. It can be a very interesting Easter for some people. And some of the things that can come to light can push certain dynamics that end up impacting the week that continues after Easter Sunday because of how the rest of the transits are going to go. And it's like you get to the evening time and you're getting a call from your mother-in-law going, how could you cheat on my son? I'm sorry, what did you just say? I didn't do that at all. This is what happened. Some mother-in-laws will believe you. Others will not. It's going to be interesting. There will be interesting dynamics. And I think for a lot of people, it's going to, again, feed back to the things that occurred since the beginning of the month. Moving this along. Another reason I'm saying that is on the 21st, this is whenever we get our exact conjunction between Saturn and the North Node. Time, that weighted responsibility, that force, so to speak, of boundaries, that force of respect. Some people will be enforcing new boundaries. I didn't really say at the beginning, that kind of just came in. So it can be a force of new boundaries, but it can also be consumed by responsibility or consumed by having to do all the things, consumed by having control or having power, or consumed by something during this vibration. We got more things going on. We're building to the Saturn North Node conjunction all month. We will continue to feel it for the rest of the month. Whenever we go into the 23rd, this is where we're going to have our exact square between Pluto and the sun. I'm going to back this up a few hours. We're so late in the day on this right now. That's closer. Okay. So here's Pluto 3 degrees, 47 minutes. Here's the sun, 3 degrees, 55 minutes. We're still just past it, but Pluto's in the higher position of authority. This is the planet of death, the god of death. Pluto is Hades. The underground, the underworld, secrets, things that have gone on behind the scenes, power struggles being pushed onto someone. And I'm saying pushed onto someone because Pluto is in the higher authority, hitting that square to the sun, pushing a dynamic, pushing a fear, pushing a frustration, pushing something into light. Pluto is being hosted by Saturn's conjunction to the North Node. It's time for certain things to come to light. It's time for certain moms to realize that their perfect son isn't their perfect son. Some of them make mistakes. I'm not picking on the guys. I just feel like so much of this energy leans into masculine. Women are going to screw up too. I'm a Plutonian person. Like, seriously. There's going to be women that screw up too. Being realistic about this vibration. Others will have recovery. The thing about Pluto is, as much as it can be death, fear, power struggles, and all that dynamic, Pluto's a phoenix energy. And a lot of times we can have certain levels of rebirth. And there's been a lot of energy that has aspected Pluto over the course of the retrogrades, even just before when Mercury was in that sextile to Pluto. But we also have that building opposition between Mars and Pluto. Some of the dynamics of what starts to come to light can also be how we overcome a fear, just as much as a fear can be enforced or impacted. But if a fear, a frustration, or something is being forced, very quickly there can be judgment, reaction, a negative vibration because of what's going to happen with Mars. For other people, if we've had the recovery, we've had that Phoenix energy showing someone we don't have fear for something anymore, it can be immediately tested because of the energy with Mars. So let's keep this going so we can focus on that too. All right. The sun's conjunction to Pluto, it's going to be felt the most exact in the mid-afternoon, roughly around 12:30. Whenever we get to the 24th, Venus is going to hit her conjunction to the North Node, as well as her third and final conjunction to Saturn. You can see this right here. The conjunction to the North Node happens like right after midnight. The conjunction to Saturn is going the most exact around 7:30 p.m. So we're fine with where we're at on the screen. Again, the second one was earlier in the month on April 7th. The first one was back in January on the 18th. So we have a long-term set of energies that are coming to a close, that are coming to a peak, that are coming to a final decision-making energy. Final rounds of assistance, final rounds of aid, final rounds of long-term change, final rounds of like understanding responsibility, final rounds of judgment. Saturn is still a judge. And right after this, we go into the 26th, and this is when Mars is going to hit its exact opposition to Pluto. Now, we're just before the exact, but there's something that actually happens right before this that I think is really interesting. And it happens right around 3:30 in the morning, but I don't really want to move the screen by hour. I don't feel like I need to do that for this next part. But Mercury is going to leave shadow on the 26th, right as this Mars-Pluto is going exact. Now, he leaves shadow right around 3:30 in the morning. The Mars-Pluto opposition is going to go the most exact around 8:30 at night. But we're going to be in the energy all day long. We've been building to the energy all week. But there's something about Mercury leaving shadow that I think is really interesting, because this can actually tie back to the Virgo eclipse and the things that got delayed, the unexpected things that happened the week of the lunar eclipse and back whenever Mercury turned retrograde. There could have been unexpected delays, changes of information, changes of plan, changes of concept back around March 13th through 15th. The 13th was the eclipse. 15th was whenever Mercury went retrograde. That 48-hour time span. So there can be something about the Mars Pluto that actually goes back to the eclipse right here. But in other ways, it's not about the eclipse. I'm only looking at the mercurial aspect for that. In other ways, it's going to go back to the previous times that Mars and Pluto had their opposition. The first time, November 3rd, last year, right around Election Day. That was fun. The second time, January 3rd. Now, we had a lot of things that happened between November and January. So this is backwards. A lot of power dynamics, a lot of frustrations, a lot of things that instigated whole new levels of change. And these changes are meant to be for the long term. But now when we're in this finalization energy, we're in this completion energy. It's like all of that from before is taking us to this now, taking us to this level, taking us into this dynamic. And for us to succeed and do things moving forward, we have to overcome certain actions. We have to face certain reactions. We have to face certain fears. We have to face certain frustrations. We're going to have a lot of tension. We're going to have some headbutting. And the thing about this particular opposition is both planets are direct this time. The first one, Pluto, is still retrograde. The second one, Mars was retrograde. But this third one, both have had that dynamic from the sun just recently, and it's still kind of here now. Both have a dynamic from the sun, shedding light in the power, in the dynamic, in the responsibility, in the struggle, in the fight, in the judgment, in the frustration. Mars's final opposition to Pluto. And I'm not sugarcoating it. There's just a lot of intense energy. There's going to be a lot of consuming like pressure. But in other ways, there's going to be like consuming like opportunity. Because both planets are able to move forward from here. Both planets are direct. Now, Pluto's slowing down, stationing, and he will go retrograde soon. But in this moment, he is direct. And some of us will also just see a certain power dynamic finally come to a point of no longer needing to be intense because Pluto is stationing. But Mars is full steam ahead. Mars is empowered, enlightened, pushing something forward, pushing something to the next level. It's not the first time he's been in Leo. It's the second round. Therefore, he's taking something further into power, further into the light, further into the energy, pushing something ahead, pushing things into place, pushing certain ambitions and drives, pushing certain goals, pushing certain frustrations. It's still Mars. He's still the god of war. There's that. Oh, and if you have Scorpio family members or Scorpio risings, hi, I'm one of those. They're gonna feel this. Their energy is gonna be very, very heightened during this time. So this is gonna be fun. Okay. Okay. Now, again, the Mars-Pluto opposition, very long dynamic, finally coming to a close, pushing something new into place, long-term, transitional, all the volatile energy from last year into this year, pushing something into place, pushing a part of the new normal, and really pushing us in a place where we can overcome some fear, frustrations, objections, blah, blah, blah. Okay, moving along. On the 27th, the very next day, we're going to have our new moon in Taurus. I'm not going to move this by hour. That's pretty close right there. It goes the most exact around 2:30, so that's why I'm saying like it's fine. It's a new moon in Venus's sign. Venus is still in that conjunction to Saturn. She hasn't completely moved away from him yet. So some of the support can be blossoming into something, again, long-term and new, solidifying energy. Some of the judgment solidifying energy Some of the elders' needs being solidified for long term, that care, those treatments, and things along those lines. Some of that responsibility feeling like finally, like consistently put into place. Going more off the idea of like that. Other people that had like that heavy motivation throughout the entire month. I didn't really talk about that like in the transits, but I talked about that in the beginning. It's like coming to the result of that motivation of just like, I'm so glad I spent this entire month redoing my house from top to bottom. It all looks great. It's like a museum. Don't touch anything. That type of thing. If you're doing all of the motivation in doing aesthetic changes throughout the house, because that can also be a part of like that Venus Saturn, it's time to get all the stuff handled, all the projects handled, all the things that we haven't got to do handled. Saturn conjunct Venus. Then it's like coming to a completion of just like, I'm so glad I finally did this. I want it to look like this forever. This is how it's going to stay now. New long-term vibration in that regard. Final transitions, because this is going to be the last few days of Venus and Pisces, just to be clear. Because the next thing that we're going to deal with, the next major transit is on the 30th, and that is going to be Venus in Aries. Venus going back into Aries. Now, the last time she did this was back on February 4th. She left Aries March 27th. So this will be her third time at this beginning energy. And the first thing she's going to do is start a conjunction to Neptune. Now, that's not going to go exact in April. It goes exact in May. So I'm not going to get stuck on that yet. But her energy transitions right after a new moon in her sign, which tells me like some people will be like finalizing some things in certain ways, certain timely things, certain responsibility things, certain things around elders, certain things are going to get finalized and be a part of that new vibration moving forward. Every day throughout the month in April, we are trying to get accustomed to a new normal. But the getting to the new normal, getting to that vibration, getting into that, it takes time to get into it. And the second half is more setting the stage for the new normal than the first half. The first half still's got some unfinished business. It's still got some tests. It's still got some lessons. There's still some other things we got to wrap up. But after those retrogrades are done, Mercury again, it ends on the 7th. Venus is retrograde, it ends on the 12th. I really feel like a lot of people, we're going to wake up on the 13th, and the internal energy, the mental, this scope of energy for so many people is going to feel so different. I got a multitude of reasons why. And that's going to get more talked about whenever we get closer to that timeline. But I really do believe we're going to feel internal differences just as much as expecting and seeking the external. There will be huge emotional differences, huge levels of emotional healing, karmic clearing. And once we finally accept that something is in the past, that belongs in the past, you can't come back, we can never be together again, it's not going to happen. Using that kind of an example. And that term comes to acceptance. Every step moving forward afterwards is trying to gain a foothold into the new normal, into where we're going next. And by the end of the month, we're going to be a lot more clear and aware and connected to that new normal than trying to figure it out on April 1st. Some of us we've got some ideas, but we're still in some wonkiness. So it's like ideas that are not completely clear. Not everything has unfolded to show us what we need to see. It will. It's just going to take time. There's a lot of karma and fate to this month. And it takes me back to the North Node. In Vedic astrology, we really focus on the North Node being the head of the dragon. But in more modern astrology, the North Node is fate, what we're destined to have, what we're destined to achieve, what we're meant to have. Saturn is still rules and karma and responsibility. Certain responsibilities that it's time to take on, it is a part of our karma. It is that next stage of what we're going to be doing in a whole new cycle. Because again, Saturn in the North Node, that's not common. It didn't happen every year. It doesn't even happen every 10 years. It takes a lot of time. So moving into a direction, moving into this vibration, so much of the fate can allow for healing on a soul level. So much of the responsibility is going to bring timely new things into shape. And that's something I actually started to originally talk about with Saturn and Pisces in specific, back when this started, and that was back in 2023, is that the entire timeline of Saturn in Pisces is going to transition people in positions of authority. Certain people that used to be in charge will no longer be in charge. There's still a few little rounds of like, we got to get some of the old people out and put new people into place. Not everybody's going to like the change. Some people are going to have a lot of issues with it. Watch social media. You'll see it. Whether you agree with it or not, or you like it or not, the energy speaks to it's time for certain kinds of change. It's time for certain things to happen. It's time for a new normal. It's time for certain new dynamics. It's time for that next level in the vibration. And to understand that and to accept that means also accepting that the old way of doing things, your old dynamic, it's not going to continue. Now, some people hear that and they instantly just get mad or upset, and they feel like they wasted time before. Anything that we do in our lives, we're meant to do at the time that we do them. And sometimes you don't even necessarily realize just how much you learn in those moments until you end up using them later. They impact someone later. They help you later. We need that life experience. You need to know what it means to work underneath a bad boss to appreciate a good boss. You needed to know the experience of working underneath your parents before you went to go start your own business or to take over your parents' business. You needed to know what a good business owner and a bad business owner looked like before you became a business owner. You needed to know how bad it sucked to be broke and homeless, to be able to appreciate how hard you have to work on a daily basis to achieve the things that you wish to achieve. You can wallow in the negative lessons. No, this bad stuff happened to me. Or you can accept that those lessons were necessary to prepare you for something new and different. Different does not have to be bad. It is a matter of perspective. But we are not going backwards. I said that before. I will keep saying it. The old dynamic, the old way of doing things, the old regime, the old form of power, the old concepts, the old, it's going away. Based off of how the energy is laying out, it's going away. Because we have a new normal, whether we like it or not, that's coming into play. The rest of 2025, from April forward, is transitioning into parts of the new normal. There will still be some unfinished business stuff that's got to get taken care of later this year. And we'll get to that when we get to that. And then 2026, it's even more. of encapsulating and stepping into our new normal. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not going to happen in a day. You're not going to get instant gratification. You're not going to get instant satisfaction. It's going to take work. I can't be more clear than that. But again, you were shown something, you had to live through something, you had to deal with certain things at certain times in your life to prepare you for this next round, for this next dynamic, for this next level of change. And it's change that we're going into. Be aware of that. Live with that, breathe with that, accept that, move with that, versus trying to resist the change. It's not going to help you any. It's just going to make you more miserable. So find a way to move forward in better light. Okay. I'm ready for the month of April. I've been ready for April since July of last year. Many of you have told me this. And one of the things about April, and I'm going to finally say this in the closing, is after April 13th, we can start talking about new relationships again and people that want those relationships. For those that actually lived with the rule and that I started talking about in October about, hey, no new relationships until April. Well, guess what, babies? It's April. Okay. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for the shares. Thank you for all that you do and all the love and all the support. I will talk to everybody very, very soon. Subscribe.